What about beans?
Beans should always be germinated, as should grains, because they have what we call an enzyme inhibitor, which really historically is amazing. Well before humans were here, hundreds and hundreds of millions of years ago, through nature and evolution, every seed created a pesticide, a natural pesticide, so that that type of seed never perished. So the bugs would never eat the last one, or the animals would never eat the last one. They'd get nauseous. And so these are what we call enzyme inhibitors, making it much more difficult for them. They don't really kill you, but much more difficult for your body to digest them. Once you soak them and germinate them, soaking overnight's not enough. Most grains take 2 days to germinate. Most beans take 2 days, with the exception of the ones that should be 5 days, like mung bean sprouts, which are traditional food in all the Asian cuisine. Why? Because they're amazing. They're loaded with zinc, so if you have premature graying of your hair, balding, they're loaded with zinc, so if you have breast problems or prostate problems, immune system problems, and it's a really, really inexpensive way to eat these foods.
So beans, you have 100 trillion cells in your body, and there's constant communication. And beans, especially sprouted, of course it's easier to digest, but beans are great to help the communication of your cells. So they're an immune booster. They're fantastic.
They're part of the calorie density. They can provide calorie density in a diet that has a lot of fruits and vegetables. You need that underlying calorie density, so recommend them heartily.
Love legumes. They are a wonderful source of lysine, which can fall short in a plant-based diet. Of all the amino acids, that's the one that you really need to kind of think about. Not really, you just need to have legumes. So I recommend about 1.5 servings a day, 3 servings a day, so about 1.5 cups a day. All kinds of beans, lentils, any variety. Really, really wonderful staple. Great for versatility, great for satiety. Excellent source of different types of fibers that we really need, the viscous fibers and all that.
Yeah, when I was doing all my research on the more I got into research and looking at, the one thing that came over and over when we're talking about traditional diets, like if you look at the blue zones, in Okinawa, it's soybean. In Sardinia, it's white beans and fava beans. In the Nicoya Peninsula, it's black beans. Everywhere, it's beans. And legumes are one of the absolutely best diets for longevity. That's been shown in so many. You can't find a study where beans are bad for you, but here's the funny thing, is that if you talk to a paleo person, they act like beans are absolute poison. And you'd think my biggest problem with the paleo people would be their meat consumption, and for me it's really the fact that they won't eat beans. I cannot fathom that they are so dogmatic that they can't eat a bean, because to me it's one of the healthiest foods you can eat.
Yeah, it's the one food that all the blue zones have in common.
Yeah, they all have it in common.
Can't leave the subject without talking about it. It does create something in most of us in our gastrointestinal tract.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
Because it's the highest roughage food that people eat.
Actually, you might be able to answer this, because this is a big problem I have with my patients. I want them to eat legumes. I know if you sprout it, you don't seem to have as much gas.
From 17 to, depending upon the bean, 17 to 57 times more digestible.
Yeah, so what I usually tell my patients is about getting sprouted beans or sprouting them themselves. What about baking soda in the sprouting process, or soaking beans with baking soda? Because that's been something
baking
that's
soda
helped.
will semi-alkalize it. I'm not sure, frankly, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a old wives' tale, but it seems to work with my patients that if you soak it.
Kombu.
Oh yeah, and kombu too. Yeah, kombu also.
So
Is if you soak with it, it tends to take away the alpha carbonose, which is what the bacteria eat in order to cause gas. But now what I tell patients is, because I eat beans all the time, so I can eat like the biggest thing of beans. It doesn't touch me. But that wasn't the case when I first started eating beans, and I almost quit when I first started.
But see, I see
Your
that a
wife
lot
almost
too.
quit.
She did, but although, well, we don't need to get into but although if you're on a plant-based diet, it doesn't, anyway.
Well, but I think what happens
You
is...
were both on the diet?
Yeah, well, if you're on your plant-based diet, actually the odors in stuff come from the sulfur in the animal food, so you can get away with
Exactly.
it without
But
causing
people
a
are
problem.
going from eating a very low fiber diet and all of a sudden eating a high fiber
yeah.
diet, and
That's it.
and beans have a lot of fiber in them, which is a wonderful thing, but it takes getting used to. You have to adapt to it. So I recommend people go up slowly, like add a half a cup, and then consistently have it every single day, because you are literally regrowing an entire different microbiome. Your entire all of the bacteria bacteria in your gut, the profiles are changing. You're getting more of the healthy bacteria, and you're killing off the pathogenic bacteria. So that takes time. And if you're consistent and you upward grow up to the 3 servings a day and you stay with it, you're not going to experience it. It's really a transitional thing that I've seen, and it just seems to make sense, and people do get better with consistency.
Think about your intestinal tract if you eat like I used to eat, as a guy who's never lifted a weight in his life. Now you bring him to the gym. So the digestive tract doesn't function. And you're putting heavy weights. These beans, the roughage, the fiber content, are heavy weights. So it took me 3 years when I look in retrospect. And then people didn't mind walking behind me at that point.
No, it takes some time. What about, do any of you use enzymes with your patients? Have them do enzymes before?
Enzymes, digestive enzymes are phenomenal for this. You know, we make a very, very strong variety. And if you have a real problem, you even want to go to protease enzymes.
So I do that too. I tell my patients to take digestive enzymes. You could buy cheap ones. I don't know how great the cheap are. The Beano, I don't know. They seem to get moderate results with it, yeah.
Beano works. Beano you can
don't want
get...
to downregulate your own enzymes, your own production of enzymes long term. So it's, to get used to it maybe, but to transition them off of that.
Yeah, I do transition them off, but I just, because people get so turned off by the bloating that they're like, this whole diet didn't work for me as soon as they bloat once.
One thing you can do too is even once somebody's adopted a plant-based diet and they're completely converted over, some people it's a dose-dependent response. Like they'll do okay with a cup of beans, but more than that, it's a problem, or a half a cup. And so they have to somewhat know their own body. And we see this with other foods too. I mean, some people can eat a pound of raw cabbage and it doesn't bother them, and other people, raw cabbage just bloats them up. And so I think there is a little bit of you have to figure out what your body likes a lot of and make some adjustments accordingly.